and a very warm welcome to all my viewers on the Bookie at the Goa Chronicle YouTube channel. Today on our show, we have with us Rajesh Talwar. Hello, Rajesh.
Hey, Sonakshi, very nice to be with you. I'm sure we are going to have a very enjoyable discussion. I've seen some of your other videos and also read some of your stuff. So good to
Okay.
meet you in person or
Likewise,
virtually.
likewise, sir. With his upcoming release, The Killings in November, a play on toxic terror, brings out a compelling plot. Two of the world's greatest detectives, Colonel Ranjeet and Sherlock Holmes, are called upon to solve the mystery behind the killings that take place every year in the month of November in the capital of India, New Delhi. And there are many twists and turns in this engaging plot, all leading up to a shattering climax. The issues which are raised in the play concern every India, but are also global issues which this plot covers. And the book will be released on 7th of September 2024, of course, which is also the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. Prior to the publication in paperback, the play has been staged by the students of the Delhi University at the Lok Kalyan Manch in New Delhi. Also, Rajesh Talwar has served the United Nations for over 20 years across 3 continents. He has worked as an executive officer heading the Human Rights Advisory Panel with the UN in Kosovo, as a legal advisor to the Police Commissioner for the UN in East Timor, and as a deputy legal advisor with the UN in Afghanistan. So, coming back to your upcoming release, Rajesh, the first question which I would like to ask you is what aspects of the plot of this book of yours, The Killings in November, would make your upcoming release a page turner for the crime thriller lovers out there?
Thanks, Sonakshi. I'd like to say, firstly, that I don't have very great expectations in terms of sales of this book, or even in terms of having a large viewership. Before I wrote it, I had a choice to either novelize it, because novels get read far more, or to put it into a kind of drama format. But I decided to go for the drama format for two reasons. One is because the drama makes the issues more immediate, and then a drama can always be converted to film. There's a famous American novelist, Henry James. So I should mention a little bit about him. He struggled at Broadway for many years. He wrote lots of plays, but he was not successful. And then he decided to turn his hand to novel writing. So he wrote a couple of novels, and those novels became bestsellers. He became a literary giant in the United States. Now he was a literary giant. He wrote to George Bernard Shaw that, can you please stage one of my plays? So Henry James, he never lost his love for the play format, and he felt that in future, there would be more people who would read plays because attention time spans would be shorter, and the novel has a lot of description. People are not so keen to read descriptions. They want to get to the immediate issue. To some extent, that has happened because, for example, I wrote a play for children, that boy who wrote a constitution, and the book was very successful, despite being in a play format. So this is true. But all the same, there is a limit to how successful a play can be in terms of its readership. So my thought was that it should get enough readership, enough notice, and bring attention to this very important issue, which is air pollution, which we seem to have become complacent about. But also that if this can be converted into a film format, something like a cartoon film, previously a lot of money was required for something like this. So if you made, for example, The Simpsons. The Simpsons, and one episode costs a lot of money. But now you have new technologies emerging, like in video, where videos can be made of with cartoon characters whom you select or whom you put in, feed in, and it can be done much more cheaply. So my idea is actually that this gets attention to the real issue. It prompts the government at the state level and the central government to uh, engage with the air pollution issue. And with that idea, I could have written just on air pollution in general, but I thought the fictional drama format, to write it out as a crime thriller, that would draw in more engagement. So you're right, I have presented it as a page turner. The play begins with these two detectives, one national detective, Colonel Ranjeet, and one international detective. They've been called by the police commissioner, who says that there's a killer in town. He comes every November. And then a profile of the killer slowly starts to get built up, that he comes every November, nobody's able to catch him. He targets the vulnerable, the elderly, children, the sick, and there are some characteristics about him. So the play very much proceeds like these detectives are out to catch this mastermind criminal, and he is a bit stylish, like a lot of criminals are. But towards the end, it's revealed that it's actually just a humanization of air pollution. So it's a literary device. George Orwell did it to great effect in Animal Farm, where he had pigs. And that had such a tremendous impact because it taught us more about totalitarian societies than you could have read 10 books which had a non-fiction critique of communist or totalitarian regimes, but they would have had less impact than Animal Farm, which in 100 pages, it brings home how these societies work. So, there have been humanizations earlier. For example, Pinocchio is one of the most successful humanizations. And the coronavirus could have been humanized. I'm not sure if anybody has done it. Nuclear bombs can be humanized. You have these two nuclear bombs. You could have them talking to each other that we've been made, but we're not happy about what's going to happen. We're going to be thrown onto innocent people. And I did toy with the nuclear option also for some time, but then I thought this is a pressing issue. In April this year, CNN took out an article. I don't believe everything which CNN says, but here I do accept that the article said the 100 most polluted cities in the world are all in Asia. That was the first thing. And the second thing was that 66 of those 100 are in India. So that is very unfortunate. On the one hand, we are sending a spaceship to the moon successfully. Chandrayaan landed on the moon, on the dark side of the moon, on the southern side of the moon. It was a tremendous achievement. The world applauded. At the same time, it's a cruel irony that we are not able to get the air in our cities cleaned. And this is because of lack of determination, lack of grit. If we can reach the moon, we can certainly clean our cities. So that's a bit of a long answer to your question, but that is the general idea behind this book.
Apart from air pollution, are there any other major issues which are concerning Indians and, of course, people all across the globe, which you have discussed in the book, which your book speaks about?
No, this one is focused mostly on air pollution. I wrote another play last year, which was titled How to Kill Everyone on the Planet. So that dealt with other issues such as artificial intelligence, the nuclear threat, how we are hurtling towards war, Ukraine and Russia, on the one hand, India and Pakistan on the other hand. So, as you might have seen that many of my works, uh, some are purely meant for entertainment, but the other combine entertainment with raising awareness on important issues. So, so this is, let me show you the killings in November. This is the latest. You can see that it has a very, you know, foggy background, that is the smog, but also that gels with the killer, because killers operate in such, murky surroundings. And let me see if I have the other book. Yes, I do. So this
Great.
is also this is how to kill everyone on the planet. When I did a Google search, I was surprised that nobody had taken this title, because uh, I was thinking that surely the title would have been taken because we have been trying for so many decades to kill everyone on the planet, and in one way or the other. So, so that focuses on some of the other issues, global issues, artificial intelligence, the nuclear threat, uh, in a very telling way. But this one is focused mostly on air pollution. Uh, it keeps the reader guessing because they show the killer is with a vulnerable set of people, with a old man, a pregnant woman, a young baby, a young child, and they're all begging him for mercy. And he says, "Well, I'm not going to spare you." He's very cold. He's very ruthless. He takes out his guitar and he starts playing some Western music, which is, "I'll be watching you every step you take, every breath you take." So the focus is on the word breath. "I'll be watching you," uh, and uh, and the reader keeps wondering, who is this guy? Uh, there's the Chief Justice of the Indian Supreme Court who lives in Lutyens, Delhi, and he says, "My God, I live in this posh area, but my son and my daughter, they still have to go out into this deadly smoke. We can do nothing about it." And a Delhi University student is attacked by the killer. And then the judge's daughter prays to Lord Hanuman. And she says, "Why are you praying to Lord Hanuman?" He says, "Because Hanuman can change, his Vayu Putra, he can change the winds. The smoke is being brought in from Punjab. Uh, and that is aggravating the pollution in Delhi." So you have other scenes where a farmer in Punjab, he finds that his son, who is in Delhi, is being admitted to a hospital because of air pollution. And he decides that, "I'm not going to burn the crop residue this year," because the solutions are all there. We've just become sort of immune to it. Every year, uh, the Center for Science and Environment, they took out a magazine with the title Slow Murder. So this is cutting off several years of everybody's life, but we don't seem to be concerned enough to take care. I mean, during the Gupta period, it was famous that the city was so clean that foreigners who came in, they said, "Oh my God, the city is so clean." They also had a fine for littering long before the English came. So this is our glorious past. Why can't we do something to change things now? We can do something. The only thing is that the politicians don't feel threatened enough. And actually, this is also something that somebody who wants to become a real new leader of this country, it's nothing simpler than just removing the air pollution, treating the air pollution, introducing great improvement within the space of a couple of years, and your popularity will skyrocket. Because otherwise, you can keep arguing with each other. This government did that, my government did this. But people can see if the air has improved. If anybody, and I hope politicians will also listen to this program, If anybody cleans up their act in a city, in a town, their popularity will immediately skyrocket. They will represent a challenge to the other complacent politicians who are doing nothing about the state of affairs.
Indeed. So we've seen that your writing focuses a lot on social scenes, of course. So how did you think of clubbing the same with a genre like crime thrillers?
Well, crime thriller has been one of my favorite genres. And uh, although I have written 40 books across multiple genres, something is romance, something is literary, something is for children, so all kinds of genres. But I myself have been consumed a lot of crime fiction, like all of us do. And I've consumed a lot of detective fiction. So I had a plan to write a detective fiction myself, both in the novelistic format as well as in the play format. So this, you could say, uh, you have these two detectives, you have the police, there's a criminal at large who is massacring people every November. Uh, so is he a psychopath? I've seen lots of psychopath movies. I may go to see one tomorrow. Something new is being released. And I thought, let's do it in a play format, but I'm working on one for a future detective story, which will be in the novelistic format as well. Because it's very engaging. People love to read murder mysteries and they love to know who is it and who can be the suspect. But that bit about the shattering climax is because no matter who they think, they will not think that it's air pollution being humanized till it becomes very clear. So, for example, one of the clues is that the commissioner tells the detectives that this guy, he has some psychic powers. And he says, and the detectives ask him, what kind of psychic powers? They say, well, he can just look at birds and the birds drop dead. And he says, really, he has that power. So he looks like he is something supernatural. And of course, every year the truth is, when the revelation comes that birds do drop from the sky dead because they have even more fragile lungs than we have. And some of them cannot fly high enough to escape the air pollution. So they just die. And so there are lots of hints like this about the personality of the killer, that he is very stylish. He targets certain vulnerable groups, but at the same time, he does not spare the rich. So you have two union leaders, labor union leaders who are talking about the killer. And they say, well, he's very egalitarian. He almost seems like a communist because it's not that he spares the rich. His targets are the poor as well as the rich because nobody can escape pollution in the city. You could be living in a $1 billion home in near Connaught Place, but you cannot escape the pollution. Your children cannot escape the pollution. It's everywhere. So these kind of episodes make it more interesting also because, for example, you have a BBC reporter who turns up in Connaught Place to report on some protests which are going on. On the one hand, you have the communists who are saying that construction work has stopped, construction workers are out of a job, construction must resume. On the other hand, you have green activists who are shouting, everything must stop. Our life is more important. So, and the BBC reporter is covering it and he says, well, it seems to be red versus green. And then he starts coughing. He says, I don't know, my throat is, I can see somebody, I can see a killer. He's coming and he's grabbed my throat. And then, the BBC operator in London, his colleague says, what's happening? What's happening? He says, I'm being attacked. So then you are getting close to figuring out who the killer is.
Okay, so I suppose if I am not wrong, that you've chosen November, specifically the month of November, because that is when the pollution starts increasing, rapidly increasing in and around Delhi and that region.
Sure, sure,
Right.
sure. So that's when it peaks. So the waste burning, the crop residue burning, and everything, uh, it all adds up and it comes to a peak in November. Of course, October can sometimes be worse, and December may also be worse. But November is generally, if you take November is the worst month. November is when the killer is most active and he commits the most massacres. Um, it's slow murder, and because it's slow murder, we tend to ignore it till it actually affects us. So we think, okay, maybe it cuts off 2 years of my life. I don't really care because I'm only 30 years old. Instead of 56, I'll die at 54. But when you are 54 and then you think, oh my God, I'm dying, then it's too late to turn back the clock. So let's be a little more clever about this whole thing. Let's make our government more accountable. Let's force them to act. Uh, I mean, I'm thinking here of demons who were killed in the past by gods and goddesses. That, for example, Durga killed Mahisasur, who was a buffalo demon, and Hanumanji killed demons as well in the Ramayana. And you have Bhim, one of the Pandavas, who kills a very powerful Rakshas. But we have a demon, a Rakshas, and his name is Pradushan, Mr. Pradushan, Shriman Pradushan. And no state government, no central government can seem to control this government, this demon. And we need to get him, we need to battle this demon and slay him. And that is how we will earn true Indian respect and global respect. I mean, the world applauded when we reached the south side of the moon, and people said, hey, the Indians did it on a budget which was so modest, it was less than the money that is used to make a Hollywood film. So when people say, oh, we don't have enough money like the rich countries to tackle air pollution, that is not true. It's a question of motivation, it's a question of determination, it's a question of, you know, uh, using your energies for this cause. Money is not the issue. It's you just need to have leadership at the political level, leadership at the bureaucratic level. It can be done. And if we do it, then other countries will admire us because doing more with less, that is the challenge. With less money, you can still tackle it. You can defeat this monster.
Rightly. Lastly, what I would like to ask you is, what makes The Killings in November a must-read for everybody, and not only crime thriller lovers?
I think it's a must read because, as the CNN article wrote, there are 100 cities in the world which are most polluted, all in Asia. And out of those 100, 66 are in India. So it's not whether you're in Pune, whether you're in Bangalore, whether you're in Delhi, you're in Mumbai, you're in Calcutta. A traffic policeman's job is more dangerous, possibly, than that of an anti-terrorist guy who is guarding our borders, or equally dangerous. So we need to be conscious of this. We need to think about what we are leaving for the future generation, for the children who are going to school, how they are suffering. So I think all the parents who are living in these cities, who worry about their children, who are getting asthma, who are getting cough, and the parents themselves are developing COPD, other illnesses, cancer is on the rise. So, uh, you know, uh, lung specialists, everybody wants to become a lung specialist because they say, "Ki, "Arey, iska to, we will always have a demand because these cities will never get cleaned up. People will keep on suffering, and we can keep on, fixing them, giving them something which is only a temporary cure. So, don't we care about our own lives, our own health, our the health of our children. If we don't care for ourselves, let us at least care for our children and for our future generation. I think it's very, very important also because it's an eminently solvable problem. It's not something, it's not rocket science. I mean, we are doing very well, paradoxically enough, in rocket science. And something which should be far simpler, we can't seem to get our act around it. Uh, Finally, I'd like to say that, there's complacency is so much that in March this year, there was a report in the Times of India. They said this year again, in November, there's going to be a lot of pollution because there hasn't been enough targeting of crop residue management. And the central government and state governments are just playing politics with each other. So this November is going to be bad. When the play was staged, it was many years ago. And when I wrote it in an ebook format, I thought this play will hopefully become irrelevant because we will solve the problem. But it's just been going on and on and on and on, and nobody seems to understand. So it almost seems that you need a demon which is as powerful as Mr. Pradushan to start whacking the political and bureaucratic classes and say, listen, get your act together. Otherwise, we are going to throw you out of power.
So, Rajesh, thank you so much for speaking with us today. And I must say that this was really a very intriguing discussion which we had today, because you definitely talked about the very aspects of air pollution which everybody needs to speak about and discuss and talk about, but everybody starts looking the other way from. So it was a wonderful discussion. Thank you so much. And I would also like to thank my viewers. And I would just like to say that keep watching The Bookie, and remember, The Killings in November by Rajesh Talwar is releasing on 7th of September 2024. And do not forget to buy your copies in order to become a warrior fighting against air pollution, or Mr. Pradushan, as he said. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sonakshi. And I'd just like to end with a warning for your viewers. Speaking as Mr. Pradushan, all of you who are listening, I am coming for you. November is not far. You cannot escape. No state government can control me. No central government can control me. Nothing can stop me. Please do something. So thanks very
Thank you
much.
so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.